Friends, hello. Yesterday evening, news from Moscow spread around the world, or more precisely from the Moscow region. There is no well-known global media outlet that hasn't covered it. Today I will try to share the details of what happened, but I must warn you that when discussing such matters, one must be cautious, as hasty conclusions can do more harm than good. Throughout the video, there will be a lot of blurring. I upload unblurred footage on my Telegram channel, where I try to provide real-time updates, as creating the video takes a significant amount of time. So despite all the global buzz, the main events at Crocus City Hall lasted only 18 minutes. It may be hard to believe, but that is how long it took for people in camouflage to enter, do what they did, and leave in 18 minutes. In 1955, a white Renault car stopped in front of the Crocus City Hall building. Several people in camouflage with automatic weapons emerged from it, carrying canisters in their backpacks. These individuals ran into the building, shooting at anyone in their line of sight. Within moments, they were inside, and the shooting continued. 8 minutes later, at 20:03, they reached the audience hall, where, according to some estimates, up to 6,000 people were present. Many may have already heard that a concert by the band Picnic was scheduled for 8 p.m. there. The attackers continued shooting in the hall, while others poured easily ignitable liquids. Fleeing spectators saw that the shooters had plastic canisters with them. Many have probably already heard that a concert of the band Picnic was scheduled for 8 o'clock there. The attackers continued shooting in the hall, and while some were shooting, others were spilling easily ignitable liquids, as fleeing spectators saw that the shooters had plastic canisters with them. Those who survived began to run out of the building through the service entrances. Some were breaking glass. Many were simply suffocating in the thick smoke because the attackers had already set fire to the hall. And in 2013, the White House with 4 people inside left early. Now, let's listen to the words of an eyewitness who was inside at that moment. And then, after a couple of minutes, the shots began. At first somewhere like bang here, and then it turns out there in the hall, it's not clear. Yeah. And it turns out right below us those bangs were really many. I mean, that was from gunfire. And then people first went down, then up. Then the crowd split. We ran to a half floor on the floor in the fire escape. The fire escape was closed. We had to break it. Then we went down the stairs. Something was also closed down there. A crowd formed. They went up. In short, they were jumping down the stairs, and finally broke through at the bottom. A door met by one of the guards. So we ended up in the basement, where smoke started coming in parallel, by the way, and they were also on the fire escape, sitting. They turned on the water. Water was turned on. They were dousing shirts with water. And then we found the door, which led further in, and other guards quickly carried us out. Then they went down the stairs, and at the bottom, something was also closed off. A crowd formed there, and they started going upstairs. In short, something or someone was jumping up the stairs. Eventually, they broke through at the bottom. One of the guards met them at the door, and they ended up settling in the basement, it turns out. Smoke was coming out too. Parallel to that, by the way. And they even went on the fire escape stairs. They sat there for a while, and then they started turning on the water, pouring water on their shirts from the fire hoses. And then they found a door that led further in, and other guards quickly carried us out. An hour after the start of the described events, the authorities arrived at the scene. By that point, the participants of this group seemed to be quite far away from Crocus. They started posting footage of an alleged assault, although by then there was no one left to storm, as the attackers had apparently disappeared. It is important to note here that right away, some were quick to say, we know who did this. However, an advisor to Zelensky's office said that Ukraine had nothing to do with it. A little later, some even official Russian media channels, like Zvezda, began publishing videos. Even NTV showed this footage live on their channel. High-level journalism. You can always count on NTV, and here's what they showed. They displayed a speech by the Secretary of the National Security and Defense Council of Ukraine, Alexei Danilov, and what he allegedly said. Is it fun in Moscow today? I think it's very fun. Let's hope we'll provide them with such fun more often. After all, they are our fraternal people, and we need to please our relatives more often, visit them more often, so we will. Is it fun in Moscow today? I think it's very fun. I want to believe that we will provide such fun more often after all. We are brotherly people, and it's necessary to delight our relatives more often, visit them more often, so we will go. But on the evening of March 22, Danilov didn't say that. This information was immediately refuted. But Russian media are Russian media. They can accuse, but very rarely retract their words. And journalists noticed that part of the footage with TV presenters was borrowed from the broadcast on March 16th. Honestly, the movement of Danilov's head looks very much like deepfake. It's evident from the movements of the head and lips. But it's a quite expected reaction that propaganda media will now start blaming Ukraine. But even Russian volunteers who are fighting on the side of Ukraine stated that they are not involved in this. About Russian volunteers, and this is specifically my opinion right now, although I will try not to express it today. It looks more than logical and understandable. When they do something, enter the territory of Russia in the Belgorod region or in Kursk, they proudly declare this to everyone, share videos. And here they immediately said, no, this time it's not us. Of course, personal feelings in this case are a weak argument. It's not an argument at all. But the experience of daily observation of events in real time gives some kind of intuition. But just in case, I'll note that it also fails. Crocus City suffered quite a serious fire, the roof collapsed, and there are now a lot of questions about what happened. The Crocus City has been seriously burned, the roof collapsed there, and there are now many questions about what happened. Why weren't there any police officers at the concert? When students go out to picket with white leaflets, they are always right there, in full gear. But here at the concert at that time with 6,200 people, the only law enforcement present were security guards with rubber batons. Where were the special services before? Although judging by the emphasis, all of this was planned in advance, and the special services always so clearly find commentators, pensioners who write the wrong things. They identify, literally right away, questions, and more questions, and another question. Information has emerged that in the Bryansk region, information is being updated right now as I speak. All 3 participants have been detained. How did they get to the Bryansk region? That's a big question. It's clear that the car was known, and according to information from the media, they were detained in the same white Renault symbol car. And this is despite the fact that Moscow is one of the few cities in the world that is so covered in cameras that it is practically impossible to go unnoticed by a camera there. But they were detained, if it was really them, almost a 5-hour drive from Moscow. It is important to note separately, and very important to note, that this act, judging by the footage and timing, was very carefully planned and timed to the minute. Each person in the group had their own allotted role, and the participants did not have the same goal as with Nordost. It is precisely with Nordost that the events are being compared now. In the group, each person had their own assigned role, and the participants did not have a goal. As it was in Nordost, events are now being compared specifically with Nordost. But the nature of what happened is completely different. Operations of this kind are not planned by amateurs, and all these people did not act like some random bandits. Based on what I saw, I can conclude that they were trained professionals. They worked efficiently, following the playbook of intelligence services. Again, we will not draw any conclusions here until there is sufficient information for that. Many countries have already expressed their condolences, including countries that are considered unfriendly to Russia, such as France, Poland, and several others. And now it has been reported that the number of victims has reached 93, with over 150 injured. The numbers are rising. Rescuers are sorting through the rubble in Crocvesa, gradually reaching the hard-to-reach areas. And also, according to updated information, the Russian authorities stated that all the suspects are citizens of Tajikistan. But immediately after that, the government of Tajikistan announced that the information regarding the involvement of their citizens is fake. After the elections in 2018, 7 days later, there was an earthquake, and now, 7 days after the 2024 elections, there is Crocus. Perhaps this is just a coincidence. Conspiracy theories will now sprout like mushrooms after rain. And yes, this is typically what happens with such events. And one of the questions is, where was the president all this time? Rumors say that he was handing out tasks left and right, and even during the filming, he has still not addressed the nation directly, only through Golikova. He relayed a message for people to recover, not even wanting to quote it. Some say that he handed out tasks from right to left, and at the time of filming, he still has not addressed the country directly, only through Golikova. He relayed that people should recover. It's not even worth quoting. It's interesting that at the time of the incident, Russian television showed its complete unprofessionalism and absolute meaninglessness. The first channel was airing an entertainment show, and the second was doing the same. And the internet was bursting with images from Crocus. They didn't want to interrupt the broadcasts on TV because the advertising slots were already bought. It's Friday prime time. Many are sitting in front of the TV. How can they miss out on profits? And just after a few hours in a row, the first channel finally adjusted its schedule in the following way. Pay attention to the changes on the first channel program. Today on our channel, it's the news channel and of course news releases. Next one at noon, and surely a brief summary is necessary. I have to state the fact that people in camouflage, walking around the cities of the country, have become the norm and commonplace for residents. Vigilance naturally decreases in such circumstances, and a lack of vigilance often leads to consequences. As you can understand, there won't be any good news today. All the latest updates I publish in my Telegram channel. And yes, my dear ones, I have subscribers from different countries on my channel, and I want to address everyone at once. Take care of yourselves, and I'm not saying goodbye.